go. Okay, so we're going to be covering some key government benefits, why you might need a special needs trust to keep eligibility for all those benefits, what exactly is a pooled special needs trust, and what do we offer here at JLA. I just want to point out we are a community-based nonprofit. We are a fee for service nonprofit. So we offer a lot of important services that you would be able to get at a bank or commercial trust or with a private professional fiduciary. But all of our costs and fees are below market. And then at the very end, we're going to touch upon the CalABLE program, which is a great program for people with disabilities to be able to save money in a tax advantaged way. And then we'll talk about how Special Needs Trust and CalABLE can work together. So, what is the main problem we're trying to solve? How can someone with disabilities maintain eligibility for as many government benefit programs as possible and also receive money from a legal settlement or an inheritance? So, many government benefit programs, in addition to having a chronic or lifelong disability, you also have to show and prove how much assets you have. And there are often asset limits. Um, the government programs sometimes call those resources instead of assets. There's also frequently income limits, how much money you can bring in per month. And that is both earned money, like from a job, and unearned money from passive income, such as renting out a room in your house, or investment income, or alimony or child support. And as we can see, government benefits are really a wonderful help and essential for many people with chronic disabilities. But unfortunately, the federal poverty level is extremely low, and it's not enough to live on in most parts of the country, especially here in Southern California. So on the left-hand side of this chart, we see need-based benefits. So these are government benefits that are going to be looking at your income level, such as SSI, Supplemental Security Income, which is run through the federal government, and then Medi-Cal, which is California's Medicaid health insurance program. And then on the right-hand side, these are benefits that you can get. Often people with disabilities qualify for these benefits, but you could be a gazillionaire and still get the benefits. SSDI is Social Security Disability Insurance. And when you're working in a W-2 job, every paycheck, they're going to be taking out money from your paycheck and putting it into SSDI. If you're self-employed, you're also required to do that. So then if you become disabled and you've been working enough quarters, you'll qualify for SSDI. SSDI, we'll see in just a minute, also is a way for adult disabled children to get an important benefit based on their parents' earnings and their parents' wage records. And then we have Medicare, which is probably the best known of these four. And Medicare is our country's health insurance program for people over 65. But anyone who gets 24 consecutive months of SSDI, being on disability insurance, they are eligible for Medicare, even if they are under the age of 65. So that benefit I was just referring to, let me move it down so it's not, oops, not in the way. Uh, so what is SSI? So SSI is supplemental security income, and you're allowed to work. There's a myth that you can't work and get SSI. You can, but there is an upper limit of how much you can earn from a job or self-employment. And for 2025, that amount of earned income is $1,620. Most people in California are going to be receiving $1,206 in 2025 if they have SSI. Most of that is coming from the federal government. California is one of the few states that supplements that. Now, there's a lot of good things with SSI. You get this monthly cash grant. It has this great categorical connection to Medicaid. But one of the big problems with SSI is you're only allowed to have $2,000 in the bank at any one time. And that would include, that would be checking account, savings account, stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, anything that could easily be gift cards, anything that could easily be turned into cash. So that's a big problem with SSI, that they have that very low resource amount of $2,000. So with SSI, you're allowed to have a house that you live in. You can rent out a room or two in the house, but you have to be living there. It can't just be a rental facility. Whoops. I'm not sure about that red line, where that came from, but sorry about that. You can have one car. You can have a small life insurance. You can have burial plots and a burial fund, and you can have unlimited household goods and personal effects. But again, we run up to that limit that you can only have $2,000 in the bank for an individual or a minor child, or $3,000 for a married couple or parents of a minor. How does SSI define income? So unearned income, that's money from annuities, pensions, alimony, support. Now, if you get a lot of unearned income, anything over $20, you're going to lose dollar for dollar of your monthly SSI check. Earned income, that's any kind of wages or salary. After the first $65, you're going to lose $1 for every $2 earned. So the government likes to say that if you are getting SSI and you're working, you'll always come out ahead of the game. So I think that's important to keep in mind. Alrighty. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay. SSI has this very outdated rule called in-kind services and maintenance, which they abbreviate as ISM. So basically, what the federal government is saying is, hey, you beneficiary of SSI, if somebody else is paying for certain categories of expenses, it makes us think that you don't need so much money. So we're going to reduce your monthly check by 1/3 of the federal share plus $20. So in 2025, that amount is $342. There used to be a lot more categories that were part of ISM, particularly food. That rule changed as of October 1st. So what that means is family members can pay for your food. Your special needs trust can be used to pay for food. A nonprofit could pay for your food. So previous to October 1st, if somebody else paid for your food, you could incur that 1/3 penalty. So this is a really good and important change. But these are still things that you will be penalized for if someone else, including your special needs trust, pays for. Mortgage payments, property taxes, rent in some instances, if the rent is very low, below market. Heating, fuel, gas, electricity, water, sewer, and garbage removal. So as I pointed out, food is no longer counted as an in-kind payment if somebody else is paying for your groceries or restaurants. And then the whole issue of rent and defining a rent subsidy has also changed. So it's a little complicated and there's a lot of government bureaucratic language here. But the main thing to keep in mind is as long as you're paying more than $342 a month in documented rent, um, that you will not have that 1/3 deduction taken on your monthly SSI check. So, if there are any adults over the age of 18 living with their parents and those adults are receiving SSI, it's really important that they have a written lease agreement with their parents. Um, Even if they're just living in the same bedroom that they grew up in, it's important to have, a regular lease agreement saying, I, John, every month am paying my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, I am paying them, $500 a month from my SSI check. And that way you can show, and then you would sign it and the parents would sign and date it. You want to show that you have entered into a business arrangement and you're meeting the definition of a qualified rent subsidy. Okay, what is Medi-Cal? So Medi-Cal is a really important health insurance program that pays for doctor visits, hospital visits. It also can pay for in-home caregivers. We'll get to that in just a minute. It also pays for durable medical equipment such as wheelchairs or insulin pumps, prescription medication, as long as it's on the Medi-Cal formulary, the list of approved drugs, and it can also pay for end of life if that is needed. You can have both Medi-Cal and Medicare. That's called Medi-Medi or dual eligible. You can also have private health insurance, like from an employer, and Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal is always going to be the secondary or the tertiary payer because Medi-Cal's reimbursement rates are the lowest of all of the health insurance programs that are out there. What is IHSS? That's in-home supportive services. Very important to keeping people at home and out of nursing homes. Sorry. It pays for care right in the home. And it's operated through the local county Department of Social Services. It pays caregivers a minimum of $16 an hour. Some counties, such as San Francisco and LA County, are higher. LA County is now $18 an hour. The County Department of Social Services comes in and does an assessment of the person with disability and decides how many hours are needed based on their what's called activity of daily living, ADL. So these are very basic activities of daily living: getting out of bed, getting dressed, using the toilet, brushing your teeth, taking a shower. Um, so everybody gets so many hours a month based on their particular needs. It maxes out at 283 hours with something called protective supervision. The problem is protective supervision doesn't cover 24/7 care. So if you really need 24/7 care, you may have to either ask the regional center if you're a regional center client, or you may need to use a special needs trust to supplement those IHSS hours. The good news is family members can be paid care providers. The family members can live at home with the beneficiary, or they can live somewhere else and just come over, the 4 or 5 hours a day that they're getting through IHSS. So over time, people's benefits change as they get older. So this is particularly true for regional center clients. So when a someone with a disability turns 18, even if they have a very serious disability that makes it difficult for them to be independent, they're still considered to be an independent adult in the eyes of the law. And so you may need to get a power of attorney, or you may need to get a conservatorship if parents want to keep making medical decisions and having access to confidential records, such as medical records. And then when a parent retires, a lot of adult children with disabilities are going to be entitled to the childhood disability benefit, which gives them one half of whatever the parent's Social Security retirement is. And then after the parent sadly dies, that adult child can get 75% of whatever the parent was getting from Social Security retirement. And then, as I mentioned, after 24 months of an adult child receiving that childhood disability benefit, they will qualify for Medicare, even if they are under the age of 65. People who are getting SSI and IHSS can receive CalFresh. A lot of us may know that as food stamps. So the income criteria is a little higher. It's not 100% or 150% of federal poverty level, it's 200%. You can apply over the phone, in person, or online. You receive the benefit through a debit card, an EBT card that is loaded remotely monthly. Most people get around $130 a month. If there's a lot of people in the household, you might get more. If there's less people in a household, you might get less. It's important to keep in mind if the disabled adult child is living at home with parents, the disabled adult child has to be over the age of 22 to apply for CalFresh. Some good news in California is that the asset limit, the resource limit for Medi-Cal is gone. So you can have $1 million in the bank and still have Medi-Cal. The problem is if you start pooling money every month to live on from that $1 million, you'll hit these income limits, which is $20,000 for one person or $27,000 for an adult and a child, or for two adults. So it's great that you can have more money in the bank, but if you need that money to live on, you will run into income limits. And that means your share of cost with Medi-Cal could definitely increase. So how are you going to keep all those important benefits? I think I'll stop sharing for a minute and see if we have any questions.
We don't have any questions in chat. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask Michelle about the government benefit portion?
Hi, Hillary and Bob. You're muted. Uh, you have to, yeah, go down to the little microphone on the lower left-hand side and take off that
Microphone wasn't
cross.
working, but mute
Okay.
button,
Can you hear?
mute
Can you hear
line.
us now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first one is about the rental agreement. Is there a template for that? Is there a form or something?
No, I mean you can just Google, I
Lease
would just
agreement?
Google basic rental, basic lease agreement.
Okay. And then the other one was about your the timeline. And
1845.
so would the same percentages apply to multiple children?
Correct.
I
But
mean,
in the same
but
house.
yeah, but there is a maximum per household of people getting SSI and that SSDI. And I used to know that number off the top of my head, but I don't right now. And it changes every year anyway.
well, you're
But
familiar with our situation, so you
yeah,
know.
but I don't Anyway, there is a maximum per household. That and every year, like I said, it changes.
Well, suppose the boys decided to live separately.
Something like that.
If they live separately, that would then that household limit would not apply.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Let me see if I can find that number real quick. Let's see.
Mary, you should be able to ask now.
Should I wait for to finish? It's a pretty easy question. My sister's in a group home. So her room and board and food and everything's covered. But I still have her home a lot, and during COVID, I had her home for a year and a half. I I found when I looked into additional benefits for me as a parent or a sister, we were limited. But I think she could get CalFresh for like weekend spending and stuff. I've never pursued it.
It would be hard because she's probably technically living in the group home.
Yes, she
To
is.
be honest, yeah, I don't think you can get CalFresh in two different locations
Well,
unless she's officially.
maybe she could get it there, is what I'm saying.
No, because group homes give you meals.
And so you're disqualified.
Yeah, so you cannot get CalFresh living in a group home.
Okay, that's fine. Her
Sorry,
regional
that I
center,
do know. Yeah.
her regional center person who wasn't the most knowledgeable said that they were once in one of my conversations. So I always had it in the back of my mind, but you know for sure.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
fine.
I mean, the only way you could do it is if she officially lived with you
Yeah.
like a quarter or
Yeah.
half a time. I know, but it would have to be a little more,
That's fine. It's no big deal.
yeah.
I have a much more important question later once you start talking about
Okay.
utilizing CalABLE and special needs trusts.
Okay, good. Good, Mary. I like to be kept on my toes. Wakes me up. Okay, anybody else have a question? Oh, so I did look up real quickly the formula. There's a maximum per family between 150% and 188% of the worker's basic Social Security benefit. It's a complicated rule, like the first 1,000 is at this percentage and the next. But I can send you that link if you are interested. All right, any other questions, or should we jump back in? All right, we're gonna jump back in. Okay. So how do you keep all these benefits? So a very important tool is a legal instrument called a special needs trust. So they are designed, they're a legal loophole to allow a person with a disability to keep money from an inheritance or a legal settlement and also keep all their government benefits. Now, having said that, there are some important provisos, as Aladdin likes to say, or the genie in Aladdin likes to say. There are some provisos about a special needs trust. Money in the trust has to be used. They used to call it sole benefit. Now they call it primary benefit. Has to be used for the benefit of the beneficiary. So what this means is once money is in, let's say, John's special needs trust, if John's grandma, God forbid, gets cancer and needs treatment at MD Anderson in Texas, you cannot pull out money from John's special needs trust to pay for grandma's cancer treatment, even though it's very worthwhile and important. That would not be allowed. Also, special needs trusts have to be irrevocable, meaning they cannot be broken. And the reason for that is if they could be revocable, if they could be changed or broken, then the beneficiary would have access to cash. If the beneficiary has access to cash, then they have more than $2,000 and they lose their SSI. And sometimes they lose that Medi-Cal that's attached to the SSI. So that's why special needs trusts are a good solution. They allow the beneficiary to have all the benefits of government needs-based programs, plus they can have access to money, the assets, and special needs trusts are required to be put into investment vehicles using something called the prudent investor uniform law, which means as fiduciaries, as trustees, we're required to invest money that's in a special needs trust, but it has to be invested in very cautious, conservative, with a small c ways. So we don't invest in Bitcoin or commodities. It's like the S&P 500. It's very similar to a pension portfolio. Let's see, here we go. We have two main types of special needs trust. The first is when you don't plan ahead, when parents don't plan ahead, and sadly parents die, and let's say there's four siblings. One of them is a regional center client who is on SSI and Medi-Cal. And if a special needs trust has not been created prior to the parents passing, that money will be, let's say, evenly divided among the four of them. And that adult, I'm going to call him John again, who's the regional center client, John would accept that 1/4 of his parents' inheritance, and then John would need to immediately put that money into a first party special needs trust in order to keep his SSI and Medi-Cal and food stamps. Now, that's all fine and dandy. The problem is when John passes away, Medi-Cal, the state recovery office in Sacramento, comes calling, knock, knock. We let you have Medi-Cal and IHSS for all the years that you were alive. Now we're asking your estate to pay back. And they have a bill based on how much they spent on that person. So you can't avoid that with a legal settlement. If you're a plaintiff in a legal settlement and you get $50,000, let's say from a car insurance a company after a car accident, that's just the way it is. And it would make sense for you to spend that $50,000 while you're alive, so there's no Medi-Cal payback later. But if parents want to plan ahead, they have to do it while they're alive. And they have to do it with something called a third-party special needs trust, meaning the money never touched the beneficiary. The money was from the parents or the grandparents or an aunt and uncle or a GoFundMe campaign. And what's good about the third-party special needs trust is after John passes away, the state is not allowed to come calling. And so money that's left over can be passed on to other relatives, and you can keep that money in the family, which is what most families, clearly want to do. So that's why it's so important that parents do the planning right now and not put it off. So very wealthy people have typically had a family lawyer, a family accountant, a family investment manager, and they will typically use a professional trustee. That could be someone at a bank, could be a commercial trust, could be a licensed professional fiduciary in the state of California. Now, I'm a professional fiduciary, as is my colleague Ron Parks, and we're all trained and we all do a pretty good job. And if we have a breach of fiduciary duty, we could even, end up getting fined or in jail. The problem is most professional trustees don't even want to talk to you or your family unless there's $1 million in cash that's going to be coming in at some point. So if you don't have $1 million, what are you going to do? a lot of middle class families have traditionally asked a sibling or a cousin or a family friend to take on the role of trustee. But unfortunately, it's not a good solution. It can be a lot of work to administer a trust. There's legal issues, there's tax implications. We talked about how these government benefits can change. A lot of us are worried that there will be a lot of negative changes in government benefits with this new administration. So there's a lot to keep up with. Plus, there's the interpersonal relationship where the beneficiary could be calling or texting their brother and sister 10 times a day saying, there's a new video game. Buy me the new video game. Why won't you buy me this new fancy purse? Why won't you let me take a vacation tomorrow to Hawaii? So you could see how that can create a lot of tension between relatives. So this is a slide really focused much on regional center families about why they should plan ahead. It's important to know that regional centers cannot pay for rent. They can pay for a lot of things, but not rent. So, like in a group home situation, the monthly SSI check or the monthly SSDI check is supposed to pay for rent. So, if you want someone to live outside of a group home, that means the family's either going to have to pay for an apartment or buy a condo or build an ADU or do something so the person can have a high quality of life in their living situation. And unfortunately, in this job, I have seen a lot of parents put off planning, and then unfortunately, a parent passes away, and it's a real scramble. It can be a real scramble, and sometimes the parents are still living, but unfortunately, they could develop Alzheimer's or have a stroke, and then they're no longer legally competent, and then the parents cannot execute their own they can't create their own trust plan. And they would have to be conserved, and then the conservator of that parent would have to create the plan. So, what's a good solution? Well, there's something called a pool trust, POOLED, also legally known as a D4C. They were created by Congress back in 1993, and Congress said they have to be operated by nonprofits. We all have a master trust, which acts like an umbrella governing trust agreement. And then people sign a simple legal agreement known as a joinder agreement. And then they become enrolled under that master agreement. Every beneficiary has a separate account. And if there's interest and investment income, that individual gets the money. If the individual is spending money, that is only deducted from the individual account. The money is only pooled for investment and cash management purposes, similar, to a mutual fund. So why a pool trust might be a good option for you, your family, or your clients? Because we have that pre-written master trust, it's going to save money to create. So our enrollment fee is, it depends what you're doing with us. It's either $600 for future funded or $1,300 for an active account. If you walked into any private trust and estate attorney, they're going to charge you at least $3,000 or $4,000 to set up a special needs trust. So you can see how that is a savings. And then by pooling the money for investment purposes, we can often yield higher investment rates. And like we said, you get professional concierge services at below market prices. So all of our clients are assigned to a specific staff member. You're not just, calling some 800 number and getting whoever answers the phone. You are assigned a specific person who gets to know you and your preferences and your needs. And there are pool trusts all over the United States. I think there's right now 8 or 9 operating in the state of California, we're really the only ones with LA County, Ventura County, Riverside County as our main, or Orange County too, as our main focus. And we are open for all kinds of disabilities, um, physical, mental, developmental, and intellectual. The only clients we cannot accept are people who have mental health conditions who are on an LPS conservatorship. It's a very special type of mental health conservatorship. Those people we have to refer out to a different pool trust. So these are the options that we have. The first party trust is if you end up, like I said, in a car accident, or some other um, legal settlement situation, and the plaintiff is someone with a disability who is on SSI and Medi-Cal. That's when you would definitely need a first party trust. The third party trust is more, I call it the planning ahead. And then for all you parents of relatively younger adults, the really good option is the future funded. So this is the one where you're just creating the empty vessel of the special needs trust. And then at a later date, you're going to literally pour in liquid assets. Like just like this is, imagine this is an empty cup. And much later, we pour in life insurance policy or 401k or IRA or the sale of a family home. And so those liquid assets get poured in, and then they're available to be distributed to the beneficiary. Now, we don't distribute any money until there's at least $20,000 in the trust, because as soon as we have that as a minimum because we have annual fees. All of the money is invested in portfolios. Where is that? I thought, oh, here it is. All of the money is invested in portfolios at Charles Schwab. And the business model is that if it's a good quarter with stocks and bonds, then the investment income will cover any of the fees. So we need $20,000 for the numbers to work for that. Some people ask, well, once the money is in the trust, what can you use it for? And it's a wide variety of services and items that improve someone's life. So we're all about improving health and wellness, optimizing independence, and enhancing, like I said, quality of life. And that varies from person to person. So for some people, quality of life is going to Vegas once a year, going to Disneyland. For some people, it's going to concerts. For some people, it's buying video games. So everybody has their own individualized plan. It's not a cookie cutter approach when it comes to spending in any way. Almost everybody is using their trust fund for things like cell phone, internet streaming, and then quite often for any kind of shoes, clothes, especially if there's any specialty items. Um, we often cover dental expenses that are not covered by Medi-Cal. A lot of our older clients are coming to us with terrible teeth, and they might need $10,000 or $15,000 of work done to their teeth so they don't have to have dentures. On a happier note, we encourage people to take trips and vacations. Um, if they need an aid for either behavioral purposes or for those activities of daily living, going to the bathroom, eating, taking their meds, then the trust can pay for an aid as well. Now, let's say there's a family of 5, and there's 3 kids and 2 parents, and they all want to go to Disneyland. So the trust at the most can only pay for 2. That child or young adult or adult who has the disabling condition, and 1 parent who is helping out. The trust cannot pay for everybody else's Disneyland admission. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. We talked about in-home help to supplement either regional center hours or IHSS from Medi-Cal hours. The trust can pay for a car, even if the beneficiary is not a driver, as long as the car is mostly being used to transport the person with a disability. And if there's enough money, we can even talk about buying a home, a condo, or a mobile home. That's tough in Southern California because of our housing prices. But we have had a few clients purchase mobile homes. I talked that we have this partnership with TrueLink Financial, and they're the ones who have created this amazing restricted use prepaid debit card. And what's great about this card is we as trustee can open and close categories. We can say you can use certain merchants, or we can close certain merchants if there is abuse going on. We can see in real time how money is being spent, but at the same time, the beneficiary, once money is on the card and there's pre-approved categories that are open, there's a lot of freedom and autonomy. So, you know what? I think I'll stop here and see if we have some questions.
Bud is curious about LPS conservative issues and differences.
So, there's three different kinds of conservatorships in the state of California. For regional center clients, there's something called the DD limited conservatorship. So you pretty much have to be a regional center consumer, and the parents are able to keep or give away seven different rights, like the right to make contracts, the right to decide where to live, the right to have access to medical records. So if you're not a regional center client, then there's two other options. So for most people, it would be a general conservatorship. Those are mostly used for older people with things like dementia. When grandma is really having a lot of trouble with memory and having trouble paying her bills, and also might be talked into buying things that are kind of shady, or purchasing a lot of stuff on the home shopping network. That may be a time when a general conservatorship would be used. So the third conservatorship in California is LPS, Lantrum and Petrus Short. It was named after three state legislators, and that's only for people with severe mental illness. You have to be able to document that there's been a history of self-neglect or of harm to other people. You have to work with the county. It's a hard conservatorship to get, and it requires annual court renewal. So those are the three different kinds.
What's
So
the technical?
a lot of people like who are regional center clients who might not be able to manage their own money, they may not need a conservatorship, and they may be able to do just fine with a power of attorney. And as long as the person is over the age of 18 and they are legally competent, they can sign a power of attorney, which is in California, at least, it's a simple document that requires, I think, two witnesses. You can download it online. You can get it from LegalZoom. So there's a big difference between conservatorships and trustee. Conservatorship is, like I said, making decisions about where the person is living, who they're allowed to have contact with, medical decisions, any kind, the ability to sign a contract. Those are all powers under conservatorship. Oh, who to marry, and even who they're allowed to have sexual relations with. Although I don't know how you enforce that one, but at least on paper, that's what it says. So those are conservatorship. Trustee is a much more restricted power, and that is having financial oversight over certain funds that are put into a legal trust. Can you
That-
change?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
That
Go
led kind of into the next question, which is who is allowed to withdraw money for the needs with the special needs trust? Can my adult son use the trust for Disneyland every week as his own decision? Or does a parent need to set up a conservatorship to be able to manage the trust money?
So It all depends who is the designated trustee. So what parents will do is while they're alive, parents are often the designated trustee. And then they're the ones making the decision on the financial use of the money in the trust. The big question is who's going to be the trustee after the parents pass? So that's what our nonprofit provides. We provide the highest level of professional fiduciary services. Um, the uh, the beneficiary cannot withdraw money without trustee approval. So the trustee has the purse strings. So so some people love that. Some people think it's really annoying. It so for the thing is, we're able to individualize the spending needs of each person. So we create a monthly budget based on their needs. So, like I said, how much money for the cell phone, how much for the internet, how much to buy food, how much to use Lyft, how much to buy shampoo, how much to go to the movies and go bowling. So let's say that's $400 a month. And then on the first of every month, $400 is loaded onto that TrueLink debit card. And then when they want to buy a computer, what they'll do is they'll go either to the computer store or they'll go online and they send us a screenshot of the computer that they want. And then our trustee either says thumbs up or thumbs down. Most of the time, if it's a reasonable request and they have enough funds, we're going to say yes. Sometimes we need to ask more questions. Sometimes it's not a reasonable request. And so if somebody, let's say they need to buy a new bed and they want to buy a $10,000 bed and they only have $30,000 in their trust, we're going to say, you know what? That $10,000 bed is just too much. Go back to living spaces or any bed place or go online and find a bed for under $3,000. So that's the kind of negotiations we would engage in so that person gets the desired object of the mattress, but they're not overspending based on their amount of assets.
Can we change the trustee in an irrevocable special needs trust?
Yeah, not easy to say. You can ask the trustee to resign. That has to be in writing. And then it's called a successor trustee would need to be appointed.
Velvet has a question about the Medi-Cal payback. Who will pay it back? And is it only paid back if we still have money in the special needs trust?
So, so the beneficiary has passed. So the bill is actually coming to their estate, not to the person. In the case of a special needs trust, we as the trustee receive the bill. And generally speaking, we pay it off with whatever money is left in the trust. Family members are not going to be charged. No one is going to go after family members to recoup money. I know that's a big concern. So that does not happen.
Um, Mary, I'm not sure
I,
what this. Yeah, you go ahead.
okay, for a special needs trust, let's just say I have a credit card where I put all of my sister's expenses, and at the end of the year, I want to reimburse myself from the special needs trust. And it's with a financial company, not, do I have them write me a check to Mary Vincent? Or do I put it into a bank account that I have that's Mary and Patty, me primary? Because she
Yeah,
can't,
I know it gets really
I
confusing.
don't know how to take money.
So the best way is actually is not to pay out of your own account and then get reimbursed. The cleanest and best way is to actually use that TrueLink card. I have a 30-year-old son, regional center client with special needs. I have a card for him. So let's say my name, Michelle Wolf, and then FBO for the benefit of Daniel Wolf. then I can take that card or I can give that card to his caregivers and they go out and buy him lunch or they'll go out, and buy him clothes at Target using that card.
So you load it whenever you
Well,
need.
you have to ask, well, so you can just get that if you, Mary, if it's your own money that you want to spend on behalf of your sister,
I don't have any problem with that. That
okay.
I do and have been doing for 10 years,
I mean,
25.
you could you could
I'm
you
trying
could
to
you
figure
can
out
get a TrueLink card yourself for your own personal use for $12 a month. The way
okay,
it works in the trust, so some of her trust money is going to be moved from that investment account at Schwab on and get loaded onto that TrueLink Visa debit card and then
okay.
is used.
So if I'm
Now,
paying for camp, for example, or
so right. So for Disneyland, really the best thing is just people have to tell us ahead of time. They have to plan ahead. And let's say we put $500 on the card, we make sure to open up Disneyland and Disneyland Resorts as a category, and then $500 gets spent in Disneyland. That's the cleanest and best way to do it. Sometimes things happen and family members have to buy, or let's say, especially a medical, you have to go to urgent care, on a weekend and you have to put it on your credit card, right? And then you, as the sister, would send us a copy of your credit card statement and a receipt from the urgent care, and then you would get a check reimbursed.
right.
But that's not, we try to avoid reimbursements because it's not as clean, right? And then it's more, when the time comes for the SSI redetermination, it's much more complicated
Right.
and they're going to ask for more backup.
Right.
So that's why we can put most expenses we can put on that TrueLink card. Now for rent is very simple. We just set up a recurring check. And every month on the 20th, a check is mailed out from our office to the landlord on behalf of the beneficiary. So you can see how that's pretty, clear and simple. Other bills can be sent to our office. We get people's, cell phone bills or internet bills, and then we just write a check to, that internet provider, and we enclose the stub so they know it's for that particular, consumer.
So you probably have an investment fund and then you probably have a certain amount you keep in cash. And that's the client's checking account, and that's what you sweep to the
Right,
card or for these reoccurring expenses.
right, right. Yeah, it's complicated because remember we're pooling all the money, right? So 5% of both we have investment portfolios for our first party and investment portfolios for our third party, and then there's always 5% cash. Right. And then somebody asked, what was the next question?
Can we assign two trustees and can they both act at the same time?
So you can, but we recommend against it because they might not agree on things. We really need somebody as the primary. It's not the best practice. So you want somebody to be the designated primary person. Now we have a role for family members who are not trustees but want to keep an eye on everything, in a liaison kind of a role. We call that the beneficiary advocate. So we have a lot of regional center clients where their sibling, similar to Mary, is now the beneficiary advocate. So they can get copies of the statements, they can go online to the TrueLink platform and check and see how much money is on that TrueLink Visa card at any time. But that's not a legal role, it's a liaison role. You might have heard the term trust protector. So it's similar, our beneficiary advocate role is similar to a trust protector role.
Can part of a special needs trust be set up as a tax-free IRA or Roth IRA, or does it need to be one taxable account?
No, it cannot be part of an IRA. Sorry. Yeah. It has to be, it's its own, Special needs trust, if you're doing a standalone special needs trust, it's going to have its own EIN number, and you're going to be putting in money from some other sources. You might be able to link an IRA to a standalone special needs trust. I don't know. You'd have to ask a trust and estate attorney. I'm not an attorney. I want to emphasize that. Um, for our pool trusts, you cannot link the IRA.
Is there a fee for using JLA's trustee services
Yes.
after the parent trustee dies? Yes.
Yes, we are a fee for service nonprofit. We are charging below market rates, but really giving the same high level. In some cases, maybe even higher because our staff has a better understanding of regional centers and government benefits than most bankers are going to have because we have lived experience or we have staff who've worked for regional centers.
You can look at our fee schedule on our website.
Yeah, when we're done, I can do a quick.
Do we need to declare the special needs trust if there's money in it when doing tax income?
Yeah, technically you do. Yeah, like I said, it should have its own EIN number, or it's going to be attached to the beneficiary's Social Security, not to the settler, not to the parents who are considered to be the settlers or the grantors. So we do have, our clients do receive a tax document. It's called a K-1 tax document. And hopefully most of our clients have capital gains, right? We want them to have investment income. Most of our clients are so low income, however, and the standard deduction is fairly high. So most of our clients do not have any tax liability. If there is any tax liability, it can be paid out of trust funds. Okay, I just got a few slides to finish
You
up.
just said most clients don't have a tax liability.
Right, but it depends. If you have $3 million in a special needs trust and it's making a decent amount, it's making 5%, 6%, investment income, yeah, you'll end up with capital
A
gains.
lot, yeah.
Right. So then
Yeah.
the trust, what I'm saying, the trust would pay those capital gains as opposed to any relative.
And so you process the trust tax return and the individual person's tax return to,
We don't process them. We give them the tax documents and they can take it to a tax preparer, and trust money can be used to pay for tax preparation. And then trust money can be used to pay for any tax liabilities.
and you have good tax referrals who
Oh, yeah, we have somebody
understand,
really great we've been working with. And yeah,
I need that referral.
okay, okay, okay. Yeah, not every accountant knows or understands trust, especially special needs trust. So I put into chat our website. So all of this information, Alexandra has done an amazing job with our website. She keeps it up, she maintains it, she codes. It's amazing. So you can take a look at all of our fees, all of our enrollment. We cannot service an LPS conservatee. We do not have the expertise in that area. So we would have to refer you out. So I just want to make that clear.
Let's jump into slides.
Okay, let me just finish real quick. So the last few slides are just dealing with CalABLE, which is a tax-advantaged way to save money for someone with a disability. It's similar to 529 college savings accounts, but money in an ABLE account can be used for a much broader variety of services and items. It can certainly be used for post-secondary education, but a lot more. So you can put all the way up to $100,000 into a CalABLE account without impacting SSI. You can put in whatever the IRS gift tax exemption is for that calendar year. For 2025, that amount is $19,000. So in approximately 5 years, you're going to reach the cap. After that, you cannot add additional funds without impacting SSI. So the basics of CalABLE, people can only have one account, which is different than the 529 college savings accounts, which people can have multiple accounts. The disabling condition must have been diagnosed by a doctor, a medical professional, before the age of 26. I know that's hard for some of the mental health conditions which pop up later. That is going to change just a year from now. The beneficiary is the account owner. It can be opened by the beneficiary or any of these authorized legal representatives, parent, legal guardian, power of attorney, or rep payee. And as long as you spend the money on qualified disability expenses, the funds in there are tax exempt. So it's similar to the list of things that I showed you for a special needs trust. So food, education, housing, transportation, healthcare. Now, the only way to sign up for CalABLE is online. You cannot walk into banks and sign up. And you must link a CalABLE account to a bank account. There has to be a bank account to receive funds and disperse funds. And this is the link to sign up. And they also have a lot of webinars, free webinars all the time about CalABLE, especially if the beneficiary is able to work and is making a good living. The ABLE accounts are a great place to shelter income and keep getting SSI. The good news is ABLE accounts and special needs trust work together very nicely. There's no fees or penalties to move money from a special needs trust to a CalABLE account or vice versa. So the recommendation generally is you have money going in and out money in the ABLE account, like a checking account, and then the bigger money is in a third-party special needs trust, like a retirement fund or a nest egg for the future. So the big picture is most of our beneficiaries are going to need 3 different accounts: a checking account to receive that government monthly check, SSI or SSDI, a CalABLE account, especially if people are working, and then that third-party special needs trust for that long-term equivalent of a retirement account or nest egg account. I know this was a lot. People sometimes want to follow up. That's great. We encourage that. The best way to reach me is to email me. If you call, I might not be able to answer because I'm often talking to other people on their phone or I'm in Zooms. So you're welcome to leave a message, but don't necessarily expect that I'm going to be able to pick up the phone when you call. Anything else I missed, Alexandra?
No, not at all. I think you did great.
Come on, let's go, Princess. Go for a walk.
That sounds like a great idea.
I was wondering, can you repeat the 3 accounts you need to open up the CalABLE account, please?
Well, you don't need them. That's just what's being recommended. So, so that there be like a rep payee account, at a bank for the beneficiary's SSI or SSDI. That's number 1. Then number 2, a CalABLE account. If the person is working, also family who want to give gifts like at graduation, Christmas, Hanukkah, that kind of thing. And then the third party special needs trust is that long-term nest egg for the future.
Michelle, I had a quick question if we still have time.
Oh, hi, Erica. Nice to see you.
Hi, good to see you. I appreciate being able to be here and just kind of refresh my mind on this so that we can help families get in touch with you. I've often thought about CalABLE in addition to a special needs trust. One of the benefits of CalABLE being because it can come with that debit card and because you can use it for
Right.
quality of life in addition to rent and some different things, if a lot of times when we're trying to help individuals get employment, there's that fear of loss of benefits
Right.
or the fear of the benefits going up and
Yes,
down
yes.
as you're starting to make a little bit of money. And then there's that like jumping off point, so to speak, of like, ugh, right here's where I'm probably going to get cut off. And then I got to leap all the way to here before I
Right.
have self-sustainment, in terms of my income.
Yeah.
And I know it's very pie in the sky to think this way, but I've always thought, gosh, if we can get into CalABLE accounts fast enough and build them up, then maybe we can use them for that gap.
Yeah,
If
that's a great idea. I haven't heard that before. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone that is earning more, which I already forgot what the annual amount is for 2025. Let me,
19,000,
what was it? What was that amount?
19,000 for
Yeah,
CalABLE.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
19,000.
No, not for CalABLE, for what you can earn
the
and still have
SSA
SSI.
allows
Oh,
Yeah, hang on.
15 oh, oh, I
15
forget
oh
what it
something,
is.
right? That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone earning more than that absolutely should be putting their earned income in that CalABLE account. And
Yeah.
you can set up kind of automatic, you know, automatic deposit into it. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a really great idea. So people that way people don't hit that, barrier and say, oh, I just don't want, I know I meet a lot of people like, oh, I don't want to work more than 10 hours a week or 15
Yeah.
hours a week. And CalABLE's a great solution for people who can and want to work more hours. Yeah.
When I looked into it, it's like you couldn't defer the contributions in advance, so it's still counted as earned income. So your SSI would still go down.
Right.
But if you banked enough of it up, when it goes down, you use it for the gap until
Exactly.
you're making enough money to pay for yourself. And then you could pay for covered California, you could pay for rent and all kinds of things through there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good idea. Now, when they first did CalABLE, it was hard to get more than one or two monthly disbursements out. People were having a lot of trouble. And they
Hmm.
switched over to this new company, Someday, which I've heard, and they've also switched over to the TrueLink card, just like we use.
Oh, okay.
And I know there's been a few bumps in the road, and evidently, unfortunately, CalABLE closes a lot more categories than we do. Um, but in general, it people are able to spend money better than they were. So that's a good thing.
Michelle?
Yes.
Hi, this is Rand.
Hi, how are you?
I have quite a different situation, actually. I was on SSDI for 20 years. I got on when I was, well, 20 years ago. I kind of like aged out of SSDI, so now I'm getting Social Security
Right,
retirement at 67 and a half.
right.
What I would like to do is, my parents are dead, of course. I'd like to have
I'm
my
sorry.
brother, who's quite wealthy, set up some kind of trust for me, while he's still alive, before he dies. And I'm not quite sure exactly how would that work, what I would
Well,
need to
he
tell
should
him.
he can just set up a third party special needs trust with us, that future funded trust. And the total cost of setting it up is only $800, $600 enrollment fee, $200 deposit into a money market account at Schwab. And so here, I'm going to show you our website. So it's our website. This is our costs and fees, JLA Trust, and and we also have all the enrollment documents. So yeah, here's the details on the future funded. And that would be the simplest way for him to set that up. And then he
And
could,
what did
the
you say it was
enrollment
called?
documents,
What did you say it was called specifically?
future funded trust.
I see. And if in setting that up, after once it was set up and he died, it would still continue. But if he dies and doesn't set up anything, there's no way I can, even unless it's inheritance, I can get any money. I mean, isn't that the
Well,
issue
if you
here?
just inherit money, directly, then you would have to create a first party
I
pooled
see.
special needs trust. Yeah.
Okay.
Reason it's better, and Michelle talked about this a bit during the presentation, is because if it's set up now before he dies, then when you pass, the money can be left to someone else. But if he leaves the money directly to you and not to a trust, it's not set up before he dies, you get the money. You can use it during your life, but then there'll be a medical payback when you pass, and the money
Yeah,
won't be able to go on.
because
So that's why it's best to do it in advance.
I do get letters from Medi-Cal saying when you die, we're gonna all whatever's left, we're gonna take back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you set it up, if your brother can set it up a trust for you before he passes, then you can leave that money. You both can leave that money to whatever other heirs you would like to.
I see. The only thing is that I really haven't. He's kind of estranged from me. I haven't seen him in about 40 years, and I know that when my father died, he handled some things with, as well as the will of my mother, and he's never shown me any of the wills. He just has sent me money saying this is what it is. So I've never seen any wills, and when I've tried to ask him for some, and awkwardly enough, he's a lawyer. He tends to kind of pull back. So I'm trying to figure out how to present this to him, and say, okay, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to work this out with you, because I think that I would assume he would need to show the previous wills of like for my father and for my mother. I don't know if you would
No,
need that information.
no, he doesn't. Because his estate is his estate. And whatever money he got from your mom and dad is no longer, it's kind of null and void at this point. So no,
So
you
the
so you
money would
should
be coming
probably talk to trust and estate attorney yourself. Rand Bet Sedek Legal Services, they are actually able to provide some free counseling in this area for low income people.
And let me write that down. What were they called?
Let me get their website. Bet Sedek House of Justice Legal Services. So let me get their phone number is 323-939-0506.
Okay. And I think what you're saying then is any money I would be getting would be from him, from his own money.
Right.
Not
Your parents'
directly.
money is now rolled over to his or yours or other siblings. I mean, the only thing I could think of is if he creates a third party trust, um, when you pass away, if there's money left over, it could be designated for his kids. And
Hmm,
if you just inherit money directly, then the government's going to swoop in and take it. So that might be a bit of self-interest. But
I see.
if you're really estranged, I don't know, it's hard to know what his plans are, right?
Yeah, that's an issue. And again, I have Medi-Cal and I have Medicare. I have an EBT card. I'm actually living in a Section 8 in Santa Monica.
Well,
So
that's great. You've
yeah,
got all those benefits. Yeah.
for now, we'll have to see.
Right. I know. I know. We're entering a scary time. Yeah. With
Very
government
scary.
benefits. No question. So that's why I tell people if you already have benefits, do whatever you need to hold on to them. Do not muck around in the gray areas.
Are special needs trusts in CalABLE countable in the FAFSA application?
I don't know. If they ask you, are there any assets in the person's name, you would have to say yes. So, but I
And
don't know if
then
I haven't seen the FAFSA for a while, so I just don't know. I don't know.
Let's turn the heat on. It's cold.
And then Mary was wondering about the income tax accountant referral. You can email Michelle for that. If you got I'll mail out the slides to everyone probably tomorrow. If you didn't see it, but yeah.
Good. I have her email. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh boy, people really stuck around to the bitter end. So thanks everybody. Have a good evening. Stay safe with all the fires. Stay healthy. And it was great having a chance to talk to all
Well,
of you.
tell you,
Thank
Michelle,
you.
and
Thank you.
Thanks very
So
much.
just
Well,
there is a FEMA. There's a FEMA they're using a building from West Side Pavilion just
Right.
for FEMA. So if anybody needs to go there, it's there by what at Pico and Westwood.
Oh, that's good to
Oh,
know.
that's good
Yeah,
to know.
Just walk,
that is
yeah,
good to know.
yeah.
Thanks. Take care, Rand.
Thanks.
I gotta log off. Thank you, Alexandra, and we'll be in touch.